Hello and welcome. Let's begin with politics in the United States. Pressure mounts on Biden to quit race over fitness query. Taiwan reports China seized a boat near its coast. India religious event crashes over 120, mostly women. Hundreds exit French runoff to block far right from power bid. And Hurricane Beryl kills 6, wreaks havoc in Caribbean. On U.S. 2024 elections, Joe Biden, United States president, is facing rising pressure from within his party to prove he is physically and mentally fit for office, with a Democratic lawmaker publicly calling him for the first time to end his re-election bid. Biden's candidacy has been under a cloud since a terrible debate performance against Republican challenger Donald Trump that saw the 81-year-old Democrat stumble over his words and lose his train of thought. Lloyd Doggett, a House representative from Texas, on Tuesday became the first member of his party to publicly call on Biden to quit the race. A House representative for Washington State, Marie Gluesenkamp-Perez, stopped short of calling on Biden to withdraw, but said she believed Thursday's debate performance could cost him the election in November. Jared Golden, a House representative in Maine, also said he believed that Trump will win and he was okay with that. Former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi and Representative Jim Clyburn also added their voices to those scrutinizing Biden's condition, saying it was legitimate to raise concerns about his health following the debate. While Democratic insiders have been privately raising fears about Biden's fitness with media outlets for days, the series of public comments increases pressure on the president to assuage rising doubts about his electability. The White House said on Tuesday that Biden would hold a series of meetings and appearances to quash concerns about his fitness, including a news conference and his first sit-down television interview since May. Karen Jean-Pierre, the White House press secretary, said, according to a report, that Biden was sick with a cold during the debate and had a bad night. During a fundraising event later on Tuesday, Biden blamed his poor performance on back-to-back trips to France and Italy, although he spent the week leading up to the debate behind closed doors at presidential retreat Camp David, adding that he did not listen to his advisors about his travel schedule and joked that he almost fell asleep on stage during the debates. Taiwan has said Chinese Coast Guard officials have held a Taiwanese fishing vessel and steered it to a port in mainland China, urging Beijing to release the boat and its 6 crew member. The incident late on Tuesday came as China's Coast Guard has ramped up patrols around Taiwan's Kinmen Islands after a series of deadly fishing incidents, one of which led to a bitter blame trading between the two sides. Taiwan's Coast Guard said the Taiwanese boat was fishing for squid outside Taipei-controlled waters off the Kinmen Islands when it was boarded and seized by 2 Chinese Maritime Administration boats. Kinmen sits next to the Chinese cities of Xiamen and Guangzhou, is approximately 5 kilometers 3 miles from the Chinese mainland. The Coast Guard said the Taiwanese boat was operating during China's no fishing period, adding that Taiwan will communicate with China and urge them to release the fishermen as soon as possible. China's Taiwan Affairs Office did not comment on the incident immediately, but China views democratically governed Taiwan as its own territory and has ramped up pressure on Taipei since President William Lai Ching-te took office in May, a man Beijing accuses of being a separatist. Taiwan's Coast Guard said it dispatched 2 patrol vessels to try to rescue a fishing boat, along with a third for assistance, but one was blocked by Chinese Coast Guard ships. The boat had 6 crew on board, including the captain and several migrant workers from Indonesia, according to reports from Taiwan. Taiwan Coast Guard Administration Deputy Director General Sei Ching-chen said in Taipei that China should explain why it has seized the boats and pointed out that in previous cases, fishermen had been released after paying fines when operating during China's no fishing season. Taiwanese fishing boats need to raise their alert level and the Coast Guard will also boost its patrols, he added. Jugda Nagraha, the Director for Citizen Protection at Indonesia's Ministry of Foreign Affairs, said the country's Consulate General in Guangzhou will assist the detained Indonesians. This is not the first time a Taiwanese fishing boat has been taken by Chinese authorities after operating in that country's waters, and officials said, speaking on condition of anonymity given the sensitivity of the situation. A Taiwan official who is familiar with the island security planning said, according to report, that they have issued alerts to fishing and transport authorities around Taiwan to pay attention to possible risks amid frequent Chinese Coast Guard activities in the region, including near Japan and the Philippines. Now, on Tuesday, a crowd crushed at a religious assembly in northern East India killed over 100 people, mostly women, in one of the fatal such incidents the country has seen in recent years. Several of the scores killed had fallen into an open seaway next to the venue. Police are probing the organizers, saying 250,000 people arrived at the venue, over 3 times the number expected, and just a few dozen police officers had been deployed. Investigations are pursuing Bol Baba, the self-styled godman who led the event. The disaster happened at a prayer meeting known as a satsang in Mogulgarhi village in Uttar Pradesh, India's most populous state. The village in Hathras district is around 200 kilometers, 124 miles southeast of the capital, New Delhi. No less than 121 people died and 34 others were wounded, Sandeep Singh, the Minister of State for Education, said, according to reports on Wednesday, after a large number of people rushed to touch Bol Baba's feet, leading to a crush. Nearly all those killed were women, Singh said earlier, with at least 7 children were also among the dead. According to local health officials, closely 72 bodies have been identified so far, and dozens of hurt people are being treated in nearby hospitals. Local officials have suggested overcrowding was the cause of the crush. A projected 80,000 people had been expected to attend the event where Bol Baba was given a sermon. However, a lot more people showed up, Singh said. Police have been on the hunt for Bol Baba since the deadly incident and have accused the event organizers of culpable homicide not amounting to murder, wrongfully restraining a person, causing disappearance of evidence, or providing false information, according to a police report. Permission was sought for the event with 80,000 attendees. However, a crowd of over 250,000 devotees assembled, the report said. Organizers and officials tried to direct the crowd as thousands attempted to leave, and in the ensuing chaos, dozens were crushed, it added. The report alleged that event organizers provided no support to the wounded and tried to cover up the incident by hiding the clothes and shoes that people had lost in the crash in a nearby field. Around 40 policemen had been deployed to provide security at the event. Additional Director General of Agra Police Anupam Kushathra said, according to the report. The deadly scenes unfolded after the event had finished when Boli Baba's devotees rushed toward the stage to touch his feet, according to Chief Secretary Singh, who described scenes of chaos as people began to fall on top of each other and into an open seaway nearby. He accused the organizers of failing to comply with the list of requirements given by the district. A high-level investigation has been launched to probe the circumstances surrounding the incident, and a police report will be filed against the event organizers for allegedly exceeding permitted attendance levels, according to local officials. Again, on elections in France, as French citizens get ready to vote in runoff parliamentary polls on Sunday, hundreds of contenders have bowed out in an effort to block the far-right party from the gates of power. More than 200 candidates from President Emmanuel Macron's centrist camp and the left-wing alliance have stepped down in a bid to avoid splitting the vote. They've put aside their differences with one aim in mind: to keep the far-right firmly away from the 289 seats needed for an absolute majority presently within their reach. The French people last Sunday placed the anti-immigration National Rally RN and its allies in first place, while Macron's centrist camp came third behind the left-wing bloc. After the first round in constituencies where no candidate won outright an unprecedented number of seats, over 300 went to a three-way run-off favoring the RN. By Tuesday, as the deadline to drop out closed, fewer than 100 remain after centrist and left-wing candidates strategically dropped out in individual seats. This tactic could stop some RN candidates from winning, according to analyst Antonio Bristel. In an effort to deny the RN a majority, the NFP, a left-wing coalition that wants to lower the retirement age and tax the rich, vowed to withdraw all of its candidates who came in third place in the first round. Leslie Mortex, an NFP qualifier and the only publicly out transgender runner, stepped aside to give right-wing Interior Minister Gerald Dramani a better chance of defeating the RN rival in a constituency in the north. Macron's ensemble allies also called on their supporters to stop the far-right taking office, but some caution against leading their votes to the hard-left France Unbowed, a party inside the NFP. Finance Minister Bruno Le Maire drew the ire of the left on Tuesday when he said no votes should go to the far-right, but added that he personally will not vote for the far-left either. Meanwhile, on climate crisis, Hurricane Beryl is moving towards Jamaica after striking the southeastern Caribbean, killing at least 6 people across the region and destroying some 90% of homes on one island in the Grenadines archipelago. Beryl, the earliest storm on record to reach Category 5, the highest on Saffir-Simpson scale, was anticipated to begin losing intensity on Tuesday evening, but forecasters said it will still be an extremely dangerous Category 4 storm when it passes close or over Jamaica on Wednesday and near the Cayman Islands on Thursday. Scientists cited human-caused climate change as the likely culprit for the storm's rapid reinforcement. The storm was located about 300 miles, 480 kilometers east-southeast of the Jamaican capital, Kingston, on Tuesday night, with top winds of 150 mph, and officials were warned residents to gather provisions and safeguard their homes. Jamaican Prime Minister Andrew Holness said, according to report, "I urge all Jamaicans to stock up on food, batteries, candles and water, secure your critical documents and remove any trees or items that could endanger your property. Everyone, including those living alone, should take these necessary steps now," he wrote. "It's better to be prepared than to regret not preparing." The National Hurricane Center (NHC) in the United States said Jamaica seems to be in the direct path of Beryl and that the storm will bring life-threatening winds, heavy rainfall and storm surges to the island nation. Michael Brennan, the director of the NHC, said in a briefing that we are most concerned about Jamaica, where we are expecting the core of a major hurricane to pass near or over the island. Coming to African scenes, Sierra Leone welcomes child marriage ban. Sierra Leone has brought in a latest law barring child marriage with much fanfare at a ceremony organized by First Lady Fatima Bayo in the capital, Freetown. Guests, including First Ladies from Cape Verde and Namibia, watched as her husband, President Julius Maada Bio, signed the Prohibition of Child Marriage Act into law. Anyone now involved in the marriage of a girl aged under the age of 18 will be jailed for at least 15 years or fined around $4,000 or 3,200 euro or both. Khadija Tubari, whose sister was married off at 14, said she welcomed the ban but wished it had come in earlier to save her younger sibling. Sierra Leone is a patriarchal society and it's common for a father to give his daughter's hand in marriage forcibly. Barry faced this prospect at age 10. She resisted it and fled the family home after her father disowned her. She was lucky enough to find teachers who paid for her school fees and a sympathetic worker from the United Nations Children's Agency who helped her out with accommodation. But she says it is difficult for those who live in rural areas to buck tradition, and every community will need to be informed about the new law for it to be effective. The Ministry of Health approximations shows that a third of girls are married off before the age of 18, resulting for the country's high number of maternal deaths, among the highest in the world. Those who face punishment under the new rules include the groom, the parents or guardians of the child bride, and even those who attend the wedding. Mrs. Bayo, who has been at the forefront in campaigning against sexual abuse since her husband became president 6 years ago, wanted the signing of the bill to be a big occasion. Since MPS passed the legislation a few weeks ago, it has not received much coverage locally. Back to electoral matters, Tunisia's presidential elections set for October 6th. Tunisia is getting ready to conduct a presidential election on October 6th, as confirmed by President Kais Saied's office on Tuesday. It remains unclear whether Saied will run for a new 5-year term following his initial election in 2019. Saied, an expert in constitutional matters, assumed complete authority over the nation in 2021, governing through decrees after removing the Prime Minister and Parliament, resulting in the imprisonment of several of his adversaries. He successfully implemented a fresh constitution through a referendum in 2022, forming a presidential system alongside a parliament with limited powers. A statement from Saied's office on July 2nd, 2024, announced the summoning of voters for the upcoming presidential election scheduled for Sunday, October 6th, 2024. The political chaos stoked by his power consolidation has had a major effect on Tunisia's economy, with a 15% unemployment rate, an estimated 4 million citizens out of the country's 12 million population living in poverty. Furthermore, a crackdown on media has led to the prosecution of over 60 journalists, lawyers, and political opponents, as reported by the National Union of Tunisian Journalists. Saied changed the Interior and Social Affairs ministers following a series of apprehensions aiming human rights activists, lawyers, and journalists in a surprising move in May. Efforts to secure a $2 billion loan from the International Monetary Fund (IMF) have been at a standstill since the power seizure in 2021, as Saied has refused to implement the reforms requested by the organization. In June, however, the European Investment Bank launched grants and loans totaling 450 million euros, that's 480 million US dollars, to aid infrastructure projects and small to medium-sized enterprises. The turmoil has triggered thousands of Tunisians to embark on dangerous boat journeys across the Mediterranean in search of better opportunities in Europe. I'll take a quick break, and when I come back, I'll bring you stories from Nigeria. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back. Now, stories from Nigeria. Let's begin with health matters. 33 states fight 2,102 cases of cholera as NYSC tightens rules. Dr. Jide Idris, the Director General of the Nigeria Center for Disease Control and Prevention, has said a total of 2,102 alleged cholera cases and 63 deaths have been recorded across 33 states and 122 local government areas in the country. On Tuesday in Abuja, Idris stated this while giving an update on the campaign against the cholera outbreak, as the National Youth Service Corps (NYSC) introduced stringent camp guidelines with the commencement of the 2024 Batch B Stream 1 orientation course. The orientation course runs for 21 days, equipping and training the eligible participants of the one-year mandatory service. To ensure a successful program, the Director General of the NYSC, Brigadier General Yushwa Ahmed, has issued stringent instructions to camp coordinators and officials to stop the outbreak of cholera in orientation camps nationwide. Cholera, a highly contagious food and waterborne disease, is caused by the ingestion of the organism Vibrio cholerae in contaminated water and food. Nigeria is experiencing a major cholera outbreak, with the cases growing from over 1,579 cases, suspected cases, and 54 deaths in 32 states to 2,102 cases and 63 deaths in 33 states within 1 week. The outbreak has notably affected Lagos, Bayelsa, Zamfara, Abia, Cross River, Bauchi, Delta, Katsina, Imo, and Nasarawa states. The primary cause has been connected to the consumption of contaminated water and inadequate sanitation, exacerbated by the onset of the rainy season, which often leads to augmented cholera cases due to flooding and compromised water sources. Talking on the measures deployed against the outbreak, the DG put the case fatality rate at 3.0%, adding that 7 of the top 10 states of Lagos, Bayelsa, Abia, Zamfara, Bauchi, Katsina, Cross River, Ebonyi, Rivers, and Delta, which contributed about 90% of the cases, were southern states. And finally, on the news, NNPCL declares emergency on oil production. The Nigerian National Petroleum Company, NNPC Limited, has declared a state of emergency on crude oil gas production in the country, according to Mele Kyari, the Group Chief Executive Officer of NNPCL. The goals are to improve the nation's production capacity and foreign reserves. Kyari, who explained that a state of emergency will focus on confronting all major hindrances to effective and efficient crude and gas production, added that 12 compressed natural gas CNG stations built by the NNPCL in collaboration with NIPCO Gas will be inaugurated tomorrow in Lagos and in Abuja. He made this known while delivering a keynote address at the 23rd edition of the Nigeria Oil and Gas Conference and Exhibition in Abuja yesterday. The NNPCL boss listed the inability of players to act promptly, interruptions in procurement processes, and all crude oil pipelines as some of the impediments to oil and gas production in the country, explaining that a detailed analysis of assets exposed that the country could conveniently produce 2 million barrels of crude oil per day instead of the average of 1.4 million barrels per day. One medium to long-term deadlines targeted at improving and sustaining production. The GCEO said NNPCL will replace all old crude oil pipelines built over 4 decades ago and also introduce a rig sharing program with its partners. The deployment of new pipelines and rig sharing program will ensure that production rigs stay in the country for between 4 and 5 years as done in most climes. Kyari called on all players in the industry collaborate towards dropping the cost of production and boosting production to target levels. He expressed that the company's commitment to investing in major midstream gas infrastructure such as the Obiafu, Obricom, Oben, Obi3 and the Ajaokuta Kaduna Kano gas pipelines to increase domestic gas production and supply for power generation, industrial development and economic prosperity of the country. A recap of major stories. Pressure mounts on Biden to quit race over fitness query. Taiwan reports China sees a boat near its coast. India religious events crushes over 120, mostly women. Hundreds exit French runoff to block far-right power bid. And Hurricane Beryl kills 6, wreaks havoc in Caribbean. And that's all on the news. Thanks for watching. Enjoy the rest of your day.